Hello, friends. Welcome to your astrology forecast for the second half of April. I'm Rebecca Muir, and this is your sacred starlight forecast. And I've never done a forecast before like this, and I don't know if I'm going to continue to, but I thought I would just try one and see how it goes. So this is for the second half of April. Today is Thursday, April 14th, and we'll go through April 30th, the end of the month. Now, before I start this forecast, it's super important to mention that we just had one of the biggest transits of our lifetimes just a few days ago, 2 days ago on April 12th, which was Jupiter conjunct Neptune in Pisces. I did a whole live video on this, which is also posted wherever I'm going to be posting this. And it's extremely important. And everything I'm about to say is like premised on that. So if you haven't checked, every astrologer is talking about Jupiter and Neptune conjoining in Pisces. So if you haven't heard anything about it, just either watch my video or watch someone's video to find out what that's about. But it's essentially Pisces energy turned all the way up, as intense as it can really be. And it's mostly really good. It's a little spacey, but it's dreamy, it's romantic, it's spiritual, it's artistic, it's all the feelings. It's faith, compassion, hope. It's not exactly to do with like real world, like Saturn-y boundary things. But yeah, we need this. And so we have a lot of benefic action with Venus there too. The two planets that bring the most grace and blessings are currently in one of their strongest places, which is Pisces. So we have a lot of planets in Pisces right now as we're starting this forecast. So even though that aspect between Jupiter and Neptune is complete, it's not complete, actually. So forget I just said complete. Has perfected already. Mathematically, it has peaked. It's still very much peaking, and we are still very, very much in it. Jupiter and Neptune both move pretty slowly. And so when you're in a transit like this, you're in it for a while. It's working fairly deeply on you. So the Pisces part of all of our charts, the Pisces house of all of our charts, is really it's on maximum magic right now. Like the most good things that can be happening in that house are happening, and it's very rare. We won't have Jupiter, Neptune, Venus all in Pisces again for another 165 years. And we won't have Jupiter and Venus in Pisces together for another 12 years. So, which is their favorite place to be, or among their favorite places to be. So big deal, big deal, big deal. So check out someone's video on the Jupiter-Neptune conjunction. And here we go. So on to the rest of the month. We're in this Jupiter-Neptune conjunction energy still. Again, mysticism, dreams, spirituality, art, compassion, love, romance, feelings, like big feelings. But it can be very misty and spacey as well. And we today are just having Mars enter Pisces as well. And as I am speaking to you, Mars is at 29 degrees and 49 minutes of Aquarius. So it actually has not entered Pisces yet, but it is just on the brink of doing that. So I didn't write down all of the different times, but so that gives us 4 planets in Pisces. And Mars is considered a malefic planet, but it has some dignity in water signs, and in Pisces, there's so many other happy planets in there that are really, really powerful, that whatever Mars is doing is answering to those planets. So the influence is really softened. Let's hope. I mean, we always have to just watch and see how the weather unfolds. We really never know exactly what's going to happen. Actually, this is interesting. I'm not a mundane astrologer, mainly because I don't have the bandwidth to follow the news like as intricately and historical cycles as intricately as you need to do really good mundane astrology. But sometimes it's just very literal. So we had the shooting in the Brooklyn subway a few days ago on the Jupiter-Neptune conjunction. And that's a very positive aspect, but The smoke is just so literally Neptune, and I've been trying to figure out like where the malefic influence is coming in. I haven't really. I should talk to some other astrologers about that. But the point I'm making is that while this is like largely very positive, we often see really literal manifestations of kind of this, like Neptune being literally haze and smoke, and Jupiter just amplifying that. But generally that wouldn't be paired with, like I'd be more expecting that if Mars was in there, but Mars wasn't. And it wasn't being negatively aspected by Pluto or Saturn or any of the, like Uranus, none of the other malefics. So I need someone, other astrologer weigh in. But Mars moves into Pisces today, and I would expect, actually, I would not expect negative things like that to be happening for a couple reasons. Again, Mars's influence is softened, I think, by the benefics, by Pisces energy just in general, and then by Jupiter and Venus being both there, which are like lovers, not fighters. And they're also much more strong in that sign than Mars. And they are like the landlords of that sign. Jupiter is the landlord and Venus is like the exalted guest. So they have more authority and more pull and more power than the planet Mars. So I don't anticipate, like, I wouldn't be making like negative predictions anyway, but I wouldn't be making negative predictions. But Mars is there, which really amps up that Pisces energy even more. So we've got Neptune, Jupiter, Venus, and Mars. And later in the month, we're going to have the moon move through there, but we'll get to that. So again, whatever the Pisces chart, part of your chart is, the Pisces house in your chart is whatever like that vibe is going on for you right now is like gonna be kicked up even more with this Mars ingress into Pisces. But the nice thing is that all of these Pisces planets none of them are being like chafed by any other difficult planets. So Pluto is making a sextile, which is supportive. It's kind of like a fist bump or something. Uranus is making a sextile, which is again like a high five or something. Saturn is actually technically, by major Ptolemaic aspect, like the standard aspects that astrologers use, Saturn is out of the way. Now, of course, Saturn's like everything's always happening, but these would be more like minor aspects. So basically, these Pisces planets are not getting their butts kicked by anybody. They're not getting picked on. So that's really cool. And whatever, it's almost like every other area of our life. This might not be true across the board, but like planets rule over different houses. They rule over different sectors in your chart. And so when we have this many planets in Pisces, they're all in charge of different houses in your chart, and they're all in Pisces. So whatever is happening in the Pisces sector of your chart is also directly impacting all of these other areas of your life. Like your Aries and Scorpio houses now are answering to all this like pileup of planets in Pisces. Your Venus houses, which is our Libra and Taurus, that's answering, and it's like getting all the goods. Like it's not just the Pisces house, but like your Libra and your Taurus houses are getting extra magic. Your other Jupiter house, which is your Sagittarius house, is getting extra magic. And I'm really seeing how this is playing out in my own life as well. So it's just all very cool. So this influence does like wrap up fairly soon. So just milk it and enjoy it. Like go into your art, your romance, your creativity, your spirituality. It is also kind of like, it's drifty, so you might not have as much energy, but we'll see. You have to see how that's going to play out. When Mars comes into that stellium, it could like liven things up. Or not. So you'll just have to see how that works for you. We have to really observe. We just have to observe and see what happens. So Mars is in Pisces. I didn't even like write the date that Mars is leaving, but it's usually about 2 months in a sign. My next thing I want to discuss. So April 16th, we have a full moon in Libra. And so we always want to ask what we can do with this energy as well, actually. That's like such a huge thing that sometimes I feel like I forget to say. I'll be putting up like a little thing on the screen or a link that has all of the Pisces keywords that you can like lean into the ones that you love and just avoid the ones that maybe manifest in a way that doesn't feel as good. But you can like choose how to work with this energy as you're swimming in it 100%. And so that's what I always want to ask is, what do you want to do with it? Because it's not just happening to us like it is, but there's an interactive thing going on. So the Libra full moon that is happening this Saturday, April 16th, is ruled by Venus. And Venus is in one of her happiest places. She's in her place of exaltation in Pisces, and she is also bolstered by Jupiter. And she's influenced by Neptune and now getting like a co-presence with Mars, you know. So there's a lot. It's like a party up in Pisces this month, but it's very good. And so you know, Libra rules relationships. It is time, full moons in general, we have an opposition between the sun and the moon. And that can create some tension. You know, it's a polarity. The Aries part of your chart is where the sun is, and that's all about the me and your ego, your identity, yourself, and your ability to like be you know, and own who you are and like live your life and take up space. And the Libra part of the chart is about relationships, or I shouldn't say part of the chart, actually. That's for me as an Aries rising. So, but just these archetypes in general, okay? So Libra is about the relating. It's about the we, which is super important. We are interdependent and we need each other, but we're always looking for balance. And so when you have a full moon in Libra, you're often looking for balance between the me and the we. And sometimes also full moons are culminating. So something is culminating in the Libra part of your chart, whatever area of your life that rules. For me, it's the 7th house of relationships, but it might be, you know, if you're not an Aries rising, it's going to be a different sign for you. Ooh, it's hot. I gotta close this. My back is burning up. Right. So it can be just something kind of peaking or coming to fruition in the Libra part of your chart. As well, something being illuminated. So being able to see something more clearly that you could not see as clearly before. Remembering full moons always, they illuminate and they intensify, but you just feel your feelings more. So whatever it is you're feeling, you might just be feeling it more. So you can be more sensitive. And the way that this moon is aspected is pretty decent, but it is making a square to Pluto. So sign-based trine to Saturn, which is nice. The moon in Libra is making a trine to Saturn, so that Saturn's one of the planets that can kind of chafe and feel not as good. So it's lending some support to this lunation, which is great because we always want, Saturn can be commitment and stability. It can stabilize things. And so that can be like some kind of committed energy, stabilization energy around relationships, especially because every planet is direct right now, which is so rare. Everything is really moving forward very beautifully. However, with this moon also being like pretty tightly squared to Pluto, it is a little mixed. I have a really positive view of it, just because the ruler of this moon is Venus, and she's just so well supported and well placed and so powerful right now, and she does rule good feelings. But with this square to Pluto, there could be some sort of intensity or issue around power that presents itself. Just some sort of little shadow. And that may or may not come up for you, a little shadow or a big shadow. But I'm going to say like something that's very manageable and able to be worked out because of the support, because Pluto is also in a sextile with all these Venus planets. So there's a lot of support basically for if anything does come up under this lunation for it to be worked through. There's grace available. Let's see. So I just want to look at this moon and see if there's anything else that I'm missing. Yeah, I mean, it's tightly square Pluto, and it's like fairly tightly trine Saturn, and the sun is sextile. So if you do have a Pluto issue come up, actually, it's interesting. You can use Saturn is available actually to help mediate because of Saturn is making a nice aspect to the sun and a nice aspect to the moon. So even though the sun and moon are in opposition, we can move to like Saturn can mediate. It's actually like an available, energy to help work through this opposition. And it does stabilize this opposition between the sun and the moon. So that's really lovely. Potentially there could be some sort of, if the Pluto does trigger any sort of like shadow or power thing, Saturn can be like, yeah, but you know what? Our commitment is stronger than that. Like we're committed and we're going to work through it. That could be just like one way that it works. So there could be some lovely supportive structure available that can, help you to work through whatever this Pluto thing is. And, Pluto is always, whatever power issues come up around Pluto, like they do ultimately liberate us. They show us stuff Pluto shows us stuff that we're not like looking at, and we don't either. It's usually something that's not just that we don't want to see it, but we do not even know it's there. So we have to be shown. And then it's something that needs to maybe be addressed or faced or dealt with. And when you do address, face, or deal with it, it's freeing, right? So the highest Pluto energy is Phoenix energy, which, maybe there's like a pain involved in something dies, but something better is reborn. So I'm not like one of those astrologers that's going to give a report that's like, this is a breakup aspect. I hate that. I really hate that. It's actually not, I don't even see this as a breakup aspect because the other astrology is too good. Like I see it as more as like, something popping up to be worked through. And as I said, grace is very available. Okay. Okay. So that is Saturday, and we always feel this energy on the buildup. So like you may even be starting to feel that now. It's Thursday. And certainly once the moon moves into Libra, even though this full moon is occurring at 26, 26, I think, ish degrees of Aries, Libra, the axis. So that'll be like toward the end of the moon's journey through Libra. Okay. So our next thing that we want to look at is after the full moon, the moon peaks, we have, it's April 17th, and there's quite a lot going on April 17th. We have the moon moving into the sign of Scorpio, where this is a side note, it's super important though. Yes, the planets do have gendered pronouns typically like assigned to them, but, and this is just tradition that they represent certain masculine or feminine energies, and Mercury is historically also non-binary, which is really cool. However, full acknowledgement, people can use any pronouns they want, and I encourage you absolutely to use whatever pronouns you want for any of the planets. The moon does not have to be a she, and in certain cultures, historically throughout the world, the moon has had masculine pronouns, actually. I can't tell you exactly what those cultures are, but I know that is a thing. But just because I'm used to working with traditional astrology, I am going to use feminine pronouns for the moon, but with respect to everybody for using whatever pronouns they want. Okay, so the moon moving into the sign of Scorpio is her position of fall. So Scorpio is not a place where the moon is particularly comfortable. The moon is about feelings. Scorpio is about feelings too, but Scorpio is the underworld. It's everything that's kind of under it's in the shadows. It's everything that's kind of tucked away and It's very powerful and it's wonderful in so many ways, but it's not always like the easy breezy, like lemon squeezy, sugar and spice and everything nice territory. This is, it's Shadowland. It's the underworld. So the moon is usually pretty uncomfortable in Scorpio because she has to like feel some deep stuff that is the reality of life that we all have to feel. But, you know, it's not comfy. However, it's really cool because there's so many planets in Pisces right now that it's making a trine, which is a really supportive, like the trine is the strongest good aspect that you can have, maybe other than a conjunction or something. So all of these amazing planets in the sign of Pisces, Jupiter and Venus, that are like the planets that bring grace and blessings and love and awesome things and beauty, that are in their most powerful sign, are like high-fiving, like hugging the moon in Scorpio. So there's a lot of grace available for the moon in Scorpio as well. And the moon takes about like 2.5 days to move through a sign. But it's really mixed. So the moon will oppose Uranus, as Uranus and Mercury are conjoining in the sky in the sign of Taurus. So April 17th is kind of an intense day. So Mercury, the planet of communication and bipping and bopping around, information exchange, also rules trade, commerce, technology. Uranus and Mercury both have technology significations, everything to do with communications for sure, speaking and writing. So Mercury moves very quickly. Mercury is not particularly happy in the sign of Taurus because Taurus is very slow and grounded, and Mercury typically wants to just zoom around and bip and bop and try a whole bunch of different things and be quite busy. So we have Mercury moving quite fast through the sign of Taurus and conjoining this planet Uranus. And Uranus is the planet of surprises. It is the planet of the unexpected. So you can basically just expect the unexpected maybe on the 17th. In the Taurus part of your chart, the Taurus-Scorpio axis of your chart. There's soon we're going to be going into Taurus season, and there's going to be a lot of planets in that area of your life will be really highlighted. The North Node is there as well. But essentially, with Mercury, the planet of communication, coming into a conjunction with Uranus, the rebel, the disruptor, the innovator, the planet that's here to bring us into the future, and the liberator, there could be some like unexpected or volatile communications, especially with the moon opposing this conjunction. So the moon in Scorpio that's feeling all the Shadowland feelings is coming into an opposition, which is being at odds with this Mercury-Uranus conjunction. But whatever it is that Mercury and Uranus are saying, whatever flies out of somebody's mouth or whatever like may suddenly happen, the North Node is there. So it is something that's important, and it is something that we are meant to go toward. The North Node is kind of like a current that's steering us in a certain direction for our growth. So yeah, just I know a lot of astrologers would probably comment on like specifics that they might see pop off in the news, or this would be, I'm not like cool or smart enough to talk about all that, but this would also be an aspect where you would watch the markets for sure, which are already volatile. So it's like, can I really be like, expect volatility on April 17th? But you know, maybe expect extra volatility on April 17th. You cannot predict Uranus. Uranus's whole thing, it's the planet that's like on its side. It's the non-conformer. So, and it's actually one of my favorite planets. It does really destabilize things, and especially in the sign of Taurus, which is literally the sign of stability. All Taurus wants is to just be stable, and Uranus is like, nope. We have to break ourselves out of like this old way of being, because some of it is really holding us back. So Uranus transiting through Taurus is a very long transit. I don't know the date off the top of my head that it's going to leave, but it entered briefly in 2018. like officially for good in 2019, and it's like a 7 to 8 year transit. It takes a long time to do its deep work, and it is like a lightning bolt, like an earthquake when it's activated, and it is in an earth sign of Taurus. So I'm not like predicting natural disasters because of a Mercury conjunction, but this also might be like Mercury, you know, rules travel and stuff too. So like this is like, you know, something unexpected could go wrong with, could happen with tech or travel or vehicles or things like that. God, I hate that I'm saying this. I don't like to give negative predictions. It could literally be none of that. It could be like a brilliant idea, actually, as well, with Mercury conjoining Uranus, like, you know, within about like a 10 degree orb of the North Node, there could be some brilliant, innovative ideas that pop. There could just be like an emotional component that you're fighting against with that. And I want to also point out that this stellium of planets in Pisces that is like all the magic this month, Jupiter, Venus, Neptune, and Mars, they are making a supportive aspect to this opposition on both sides. So the Pisces, if you do have any sort of like push-pull with kind of dark emotions or challenging emotions and like unexpected events in the world, this could also be like just getting into a fight with someone, because Mercury is words and communications, or having words with somebody, or something is like sharp-tongued. There's a balm of grace available, BALM, balm of grace available with this Pisces stellium of benefic planets, like, you know, extending olive branches on both sides, because it's making a supportive sextile to planets in Taurus, which are Mercury and Uranus in the North Node, and a supportive trine to the moon. Ooh, and the South Node, I forgot to mention, the South Node is in Scorpio. So yeah, the moon is not only coming over, moving through Scorpio and going to be opposing this Mercury and Uranus conjunction, which will, like, it will happen that day. Mercury moves so quickly, it's just boom, right over. But when the moon goes over the South Node, typically, it's not that amazing. The South Node is like the leaky hole in the boat. It's something that we need to be getting away from that and going towards something else. So interestingly, if you find yourself caught in this opposition between the moon and Scorpio, and then this, Mercury-Uranus conjunction in Taurus, and you have to pick which side to go toward, you might want to look at the North Node in Taurus and like look at that Taurus part of your chart and be like, okay, maybe this is where I'm meant to be focusing my energy at this time, and releasing around that Scorpio part of your chart. And again, lean on the Pisces part of your chart to help you work through anything that comes up. And depending on your chart, you may or may not feel this that much, but just it's really worth noting. This is a bigger sort of day. Let's see what else. And also this opposition is like in a sign-based square with Saturn. So all of the fixed signs in the zodiac at this point in time are, you know, just kind of being chafed. And it's just your turn to get that alchemical growth. Like, I'm all cardinal in my chart the last like bunch of years. It's like we've been getting it. And now the fixed signs, Leo, Taurus, Aquarius, Scorpio, just have some more of those kind of like growing pains aspects. The challenging outer planets are making more difficult aspects to planets in those signs and moving through those signs. Okay. Also, Mercury does represent like children a lot of the time, and also non-binary people. So if you're looking at mundane issues in the news, you could look to those topics. And then we have April 19th, the sun entering Taurus. And I'm going to scroll my software forward. Of course, like the moon is in Sagittarius at this time, and it's kind of, you know, it's cool. It's like connected by square to a lot of these Pisces planets, which is good. It can be a little overblown, but you know, I don't really have as much to say on that. It's good. It's nice. It's nice. Okay, so April 19th with the sun moving into Taurus. I want to find out exactly when that is, because yes. So It's actually in my time zone, it's like April 20th. So I think on the West Coast, in LA, it's April 19th, but it's like just after midnight on April 20th. The sun moves into Taurus. And so when we say it's Taurus season, that's because the sun is there, but we already have the North Node, Mercury, and Uranus there. So now we have a stellium of planets in Taurus and a stellium of planets in Pisces. And that's nice because those planets are in sextile to each other by sign, and that is a supportive aspect. It's harmonious. It's nice. It's playing nice with Pluto. It's not playing nice with Saturn. So Saturn in Aquarius is making a square to all of these planets in Taurus, and squares chafe. They're difficult. They're reality checks. So, planets in Taurus typically want very Saturnian things. Like, they want stability, structure, comfort. Well, Saturn's not about comfort, but, comfort, security, stability, earth, grounded things. But with Uranus in the sign of Taurus really kicking up dust, literally, and being like, yo, we're like innovating everything we're doing. Taurus rules like money. It rules agriculture, the earth. And so, those areas could be heightened, but you're also seeing Saturn squaring all those planets is somehow giving a reality check to them. So each one of these planets, as it moves through Taurus, will square Saturn. So you can enjoy this Taurus energy and be supported by all these planets in Pisces, but there will be some sort of Saturn, which is like the authority, the structures, the rules, the systems, the foundations. In the world, it can rule the government, it can rule father figures and bosses and CEOs. And Saturn has many gifts. It can help us build strong foundations. But if your foundation is shitty, it will test it. And if it's like a house of cards, it's going to come down, which is good in the long run. But we don't get away with anything when Saturn is involved. It shows us where... it's a reality check where something's just like, you shall not pass, or where something needs to be adjusted. So while there's a lot of blessings available for this Taurus part of your chart, and especially innovation and like big upgrades, there are reality checks to balance that out. And we're having our first eclipse on April 29th or 30th. I'll check. We'll get to that shortly, in the sign of Taurus. And that's a massive, massive cosmic chiropractic realignment of this part of your chart, as well as the Scorpio part, because it's a seesaw, it's an axis. So Taurus season, just in general, some of the key words, again, sensuality, beauty, luxury, comfort, the earth, like gardening, like amazing food, like luxurious textures and colors, and, agriculture, and money, finance, possessions, things that we own, things that we value, and an income, and things like that. How we create our financial security and stability, and set our foundation up in the world, so that we can enjoy life and enjoy this earthly realm. So that's very highlighted throughout Taurus season, bolstered by your Pisces house in your chart, and a little bit reality checked by your Saturn house in your chart. Then we have Juno entering Pisces, which is also just kind of Juno is an asteroid that is a traditional signifier of marriage. I don't work much with Juno, so I don't have as much to say, but I just thought it was notable because it's like literally just absolutely epic romance right now in the Pisces sector. So I've heard Juno referred to as like a secondary Venus. And so to have Juno come into Pisces at this time kind of heightens the romance that's going on in that sector of your chart, April 21st. But however, April 21st through 25th, we'll be having the moon in the Saturn-ruled signs. We're going to have the moon move through Capricorn, which is really nice because it's going to trine like, which is like hug all of the planets in Taurus, which there's like 4, if you count the North Node, there's 4 bodies in Taurus. There's 4 bodies in Pisces. Is that right? Yes. And so the moon moving through Capricorn gives a hug to the Pisces planets and a really big hug to the Taurus planets, but it is a Saturn ruled sign. So Saturn is usually like a little bit more restrained, a little bit more focused around work and not feelings. But I think for the couple days that the moon will be in Capricorn, it's really kind of nice because of the way the moon also she's in detriment in Capricorn. It's not like her favorite place to be, but because she's so well supported and well aspected here, it could be a great day to get some work done and feel good about it. Okay, just moving forward here, because once the moon moves into Aquarius, that's a little bit more challenging, and that is on April 24th. Or maybe April 23rd. Yeah. So April 23rd, the moon, like early in the morning, moves into Aquarius. And so the moon has to go through Saturn, the 23rd and 24th, and has to kind of like square off with a bunch of other stuff. So that couple of days, the 23rd, 24th, are like a little bit more chafy. There's some sandpaper potentially in there, but it's nothing you can't handle. Again, like it's so much magic right now with all these planets in Pisces. It's just, there's so many planets so strong that are bringing so many good things. It's good. Okay, so moving on. This is what I've been watching this section of time for so long, for like, I don't know, a couple years, actually, maybe like a year and a half. So April 26th actually would be April 25th. I really want to get the, let's see. I want to get the exact date correct because I'm just right now on my software. I'm not screen sharing on purpose. I thought about it, but Okay. So yeah, April 25th at like, around 8 in the morning, my time. So it's like early if you're on the East Coast. I'm 4 hours ahead of LA. The moon moves into Pisces along with Juno, Mars, Venus, Neptune, and Jupiter. And it's amazing because the moon is so important. So for every time you're, doing an astrological election where you're trying to like cosmic surf and catch a wave, like a really good alignment to begin something important, the moon has to be in a good place. And so and the moon is pretty nice in Pisces as well. It's like a sign that's congruent to her, feeling nature. And again, she's making a sextile to a supportive hug to these planets in Taurus as well. So even though we're coming up on this eclipse that's going to be happening just a few days later, and like most astrologers will tell you, be careful of eclipse season. It's extremely volatile. We definitely can't commandeer the energy of the universe and try to make it submit to our will. People say, don't manifest on eclipses. I'm like, yeah, like don't, you have to have some humility and allow the universe to move things around. And it, like I mentioned earlier, this eclipse is like a cosmic divine chiropractic realignment in the Taurus and Scorpio houses of your chart. My first teacher, Rebecca Gordon, said there can be big exits and big entrances in this area. So it's not like a lot of astrologers would caution you, don't do stuff around this time or don't try to like, I don't know. The jury for me is a little bit out on that. I respect that it's a lot of energy moving that we cannot rein in. Like we are not the boss of it. This is the divine job, moving things around. However, a lot of the time astrology just reflects what's happening naturally in our lives. And there just may naturally be some big endings or naturally be some like amazing new beginnings at this time. And so if things are already like naturally brewing and moving in a certain direction, like there's a job you want to apply for or like something you want to go for, I would say like don't not do it. Like this is really lovely, lovely, lovely. So on April 25th, the moon is entering Pisces. I would be inclined to wait until she passes over Mars, who's at 7 degrees of Pisces. So let's see how long that will take in my time zone. When the moon does come over Mars, it maybe not be as intense as like if it was happening in another sign, but that's at around 9:28 Atlantic time. I'm an hour later than New York, 4 hours later than LA, where you're getting like Moon Mars conjunction basically, and that can sting. So this is overwhelmingly positive, but like I would just still wait until the moon clears Mars. And that's essentially you're looking at April 26th. And then you have the moon applying. She's like the next aspect she's going to be making is like literally the most amazing, glorious hug ever with Venus, the exalted queen in Pisces. And then coming into, again, a hug with Neptune and Jupiter. And Jupiter is in its full power and glory and ability to like just dole out all the blessings and grace. And we do have some Neptunian mist in there. So it's great for dreaming and not always great for reality. But I think you can strike a balance here, especially with so many planets in Taurus, which does lend a grounding energy. So this is a time to, I would say, like, I would personally, like, I would apply for a job at this time, like, for sure, you know, or like launch something, or, you know, it is, but I probably wouldn't, you know, do any kind of like crazy ass spell work where I'm trying to like commandeer. But a ritual, in my opinion, you can always do ritual work where you are connecting with the divine, in partnership with the divine, in trust with the divine, putting your hand in the hand of the divine and asking to be guided. And you can communicate and let the divine know what you want, but ask to be led and guided in the highest way. I can't see a time where that's ever not okay to do. And structuring a beautiful ritual for yourself, like I can't imagine what the issue could be with that. I think that astrologers that warn people against manifesting work around eclipses, it's like maybe it's more like the kind of manifesting work where you're like just trying to like make the universe submit to your will, or like commandeer energy. And there's a need for humility around eclipses because they do realign us, and we can't see where we've strayed necessarily. And so any kind of realignment that's happening, endings, beginnings, you know, dramatic changes in our lives are all happening for us. And we need to trust the direction that we're being put in. But we can always work with it. Okay, so yeah, this period of these 2 days, April 26th and 27th, are like my favorite. They're like money days, other than April 9th, which was April 7th, 8th, and 9th earlier in the month, which has passed. This period of time is like maximum magic. You can bet that every astrologer that does you know, electional astrology has noted this, and maybe some people that are, you know, doing astrological magic, talismanic creation, or any sort of ritual, you know, depending on their beliefs around eclipses, have noted this date. So we have the moon in Pisces applying to like every good thing, basically. And then a little bit later, we get her what's called enclosed between the benefics. So even after she's gotten through Venus, now she's like between a sweet spot and a sweet spot. Now, again, Neptune's in there, which does really kind of make things potentially a bit less clear. No, definitely not potentially. Neptune is in there, so Neptune makes things definitely less clear. However, that doesn't have to be a negative. So just using this energy for stuff that's appropriate as well. And also, if you're someone that's like, you know, has a tendency to like drink too much, or like do smoke too much weed, or like, you know, this is an influence that we're having now, that we've already been in for a couple months, and that we're having now, and we're having all month, that is really intense. And it can be hard to part the mists and ground ourselves and have a healthy balance with this. So just whatever practices you need to have if your tendency is already to be super misty and like have escapism or escapist tendencies, to just bring some awareness to that so that you don't get out of balance with it. Because this is such a positive energy. You want to... it's all about the higher realms and love and creativity and spirituality and like the transcendent, hope, faith, compassion, like oneness. And there are a lot of ways to connect with that consciousness. And so when people are using drugs, alcohol, things like that, to get there, that's fine in moderation, right? But that you can also get there like through listening to music, or, you know, leaning on your friends, or, you know, in prayer, or, you know, whatever, right? So, okay, so that pocket of days is definitely to note: April 26th, April 27th. Then we will be in a dark moon phase as the moon moves into, oh, hang on, I need to adjust my thingy. As the moon moves into Aries. And as the moon moves into Aries, it's not connected really by major Ptolemaic aspect. It's definitely connecting to the Pisces and Taurus planets, like by semi-sextile, which is an aspect that I don't know that much about, but I just know that mathematically it's definitely like a real thing. Check out like Rick Levine or Gemini Brett for like those types of aspects, or maybe Anne Ortley. But it's not connected to, you know, these planets by, it's not connected to most of the planets in Taurus and Pisces, which is where most of the planets in the sky are. So it is connected via sextile to Saturn and via square to Pluto. So essentially it's more connected to the malefics, and the moon is a little challenged in Aries anyway. Aries is the fighter. So it's like not the easiest emotional energy. But I don't have, like, you might not have any issues with this, but the thing is, when you have a moon it's waning, it's almost a new moon, which will, you know, and a solar eclipse on April 30th, like the next couple days. So the moon is, when the moon is waning like that, it becomes dark. It has very little light, and the energy tends to be really low. I find my energy generally is quite low on new moons and dark moons, and that's natural. Whereas people tend to be like more pumped around a full moon, right? So with the moon moving through Aries at this time, not really connected via a super strong aspect to any of the stellium in Pisces or Taurus, like it just could be like it's a time to kind of chill and relax if you can. And doubly so because we're about to have this solar eclipse on the 30th. And so when the moon moves into Taurus, which, here's the other thing, the moon is exalted in Taurus. It's one of her favorite places to be. It's unfortunate that, you know, the whole time Saturn has been in Aquarius since 2021 or late 2020. Is it December 2020? The whole time Saturn has been there, every time the moon moves through Taurus, she has to get a smackdown from Saturn via square. So it's just the way it is for like 2.5 years, basically, until Saturn moves into Pisces. And because Uranus is in Taurus and has been there for a few years and will be there for a few years, that's also just a really radical, futuristic, like totally David Bowie-esque type aspect that, you know, isn't really like typical Taurus energy. So the moon's exalted in Taurus. She just wants to be like the empress and like be pregnant and like surrounded by pomegranates in her rose garden and like in her like luxurious, you know, just it's like so much abundance, joy, and sensual energy. But there are other planets in the mix that are kind of disrupting that. However, there's still a lot of positives. So essentially we're upgrading and updating this Taurus part of our chart. So whereas we may just want to take a nap in this rose garden after eating like some really expensive chocolate. There's something new that needs to happen in order for us to like ultimately live that best Taurus life. There's some kind of radical new change that needs to happen there. And all of these planets in Pisces, we still actually on this day, April 30th, the day of the eclipse, we actually have Jupiter and Venus conjoining in Pisces, which is like a once every 12-year transit, which we want is something that we'd be watching too. Like I would totally elect a wedding on this day if it was not for this eclipse. I would be like a little hesitant to like to do a marriage on an eclipse just because people say the energy is so volatile. But also maybe you could do it. You know, it's like such a nice eclipse. It depends on which astrologer you ask. So let's actually break down. This is some of the most important energy. So all of April, April 12th was really big with the Jupiter-Neptune conjunction. But other than that, all of April is kind of building to this moment of this partial solar eclipse in Taurus, and the Venus-Jupiter conjunction on the same day in both of their favorite signs, in their maximum power, in their maximum magic, in their maximum faith, their maximum compassion, their maximum love, their maximum joy. It's so gorgeous, and making like a supportive sextile hug to this eclipse in Taurus, and the moon exalted there too. I mean, it's like I would say it couldn't get lovelier, other than like, of course, Saturn is kind of like a little bit of a thorn in the side for sure. And Uranus kind of spices things up because this eclipse is taking place. I think it's at like 9 or 10 degrees. Let me just check it out. It's very close to Uranus in Taurus. Like it's within just a couple degrees away. So there is an element of surprise or the unexpected. There can be something like that destabilizes things a little bit, but I would imagine that this would be more positive, just because there's like, this is some of the most positive astrology I've seen since I've been like an astrologer, like a practicing astrologer, the last since 2017, like this many amazing planets in Pisces and their signs of dignity and exaltation. And like, it's just lovely. Like you'd be waiting for this and be like, nothing's going to ruin it. But then it's like, oh, it's an eclipse and like Saturn's squaring it. So like, that's the thing with astrology. There's always something. You can literally scroll through as like an electional astrologer looking for the best dates, the best waves to kind of catch and ride and surf, to launch things, to get married, to do important things, to file important paperwork or like initiate important actions in your life. And I have yet to find any chart that doesn't have something like shitty. But you try to put that like thorn in the side, like in a quieter place in the chart. This is a whole other chat. But basically, this is overwhelmingly positive to me. I see like the Saturn in squaring things or whatever. I'm just like, yeah, there's always something. But you usually don't have this many nice things happening. Like there's always something anyway. So it's like, okay, yes, there is always something. And this is a day when you have like this incredible new update happening in the Taurus part of your chart. And the North Node is there, which is why there's an eclipse. Uranus is there, so it can be really innovative, but also this sign-based sextile, this hug from Jupiter and Venus conjoining in their favorite place, their most powerful place in Pisces that they haven't done in 12 years. So it's extraordinary astrology. And it is worth noting that historically, eclipses are seen as malefic, like they are seen as bad. And I really appreciate ancient astrology. I've like rooted myself in it. And the more I've studied it, the more it's offered like a really secure, like amazing foundation for the modern spiritual exploring that I do. But my perspective yeah, like people literally, like they used to literally like hide from the light of the, they would like go inside, so they wouldn't be exposed to like the eclipse rays. To me, I'm like, you can't, I mean, I don't know. There are astrologers today that still, have those sort of beliefs, and that's cool. Like I totally respect it because everything is energy. But my view of eclipses maybe is a bit more modern. And I don't mean to just be sugarcoaty, because they can be really challenging. If something is really out of alignment and the universe is giving you like a big crack, or something has to exit out of your life, or some big new change has to come in, it can be extremely uncomfortable, especially on these fixed axes. Like Taurus and Scorpio are fixed signs. They don't like things to be changing all the time. It's not like these energies in and of themselves are not as flexible. And so when you have these massive shifts required in these parts of your chart, it can feel more difficult. But I just feel so positive about it. Like you have to update, you have to innovate, you have to change. And so as far as eclipses go, you're going to have, and we'll have another eclipse in 2 weeks after this, because they always come in pairs, and we get 2 sets of them every year. Sometimes like a third set will be starting. So it's going to happen anyway. You're always going to have these sort of updates. It might as well be with like this amazing stellium in Pisces offering this gorgeous, gorgeous support. This is really, it's just lovely. So Pisces and Taurus houses of your chart are the houses to watch this last 2 weeks of April, and especially April 30th. Wherever the Pisces house is in your chart is really sweet. This Venus-Jupiter conjunction is definitely getting misty influence from Neptune. So whatever is happening in the romance level is as sweet as can be. It may not be the most grounded in reality. However, I would still argue it's not like completely delusional. It's a lot of people are like, Neptune's delusion. I'm like, it can be if it's like in a crappy aspect, or, but there's just too much good here for me to go down that negative. Neptune can be like hope, compassion, and dreams, and God and oneness, right? So, and because it's in a sextile with these planets in Taurus, which is very earthy, there is grounding available. So this is like a maximum romance time this month, and big changes at the end of the month. In the Taurus part of your chart, there's something big and new that's happening. That's the new moon. They say that eclipses are like new moons turned, like exponentially turned up, right? So like 10 new moons rolled into one, or 100 new moons rolled into one. It's a very powerful eclipse. And not every new moon is eclipse is conjunct the North Node. So this is, it's a new things in the Taurus part of your chart. If you have a lot of planets in Scorpio, you may be feeling it a little bit more, because there is an exit or a release, and that's over a period of the next, when the next eclipse comes, it will be in Scorpio in 2 weeks after this. And so it's kind of a process. You may have things happening like really suddenly with Uranus's influence in Taurus, but there's still going to be like a period of several weeks where it's like a process. Gosh, there's a great interview I did back when I was just studying. I'm still studying astrology. I'll always be studying astrology. But when I was not a professional astrologer, I had my first teacher, Rebecca Gordon, on the podcast when it was called the Everyday Seeker podcast. But that episode is still available on what is now the Sacred Starlight Spiritual Podcast. And it's on eclipses. And she calls them karmic expediters. They are very karmic, right? So it's like whatever needs to shift is going to shift, like ready or not. So check that out. There's a lot of really beautiful, it's a beautiful transmission from her. And And she gets into the esoteric astrology as well, of like tells the story about how the sun and the moon communicate and exchange information, and how it's essentially like an update, like you're going to a new radio station, because the old one is old. So yeah, I could go on. I know this is already quite long, so it's amazing. Go check that episode out from you'll find it under Sacred Starlight Spiritual Podcast, which is not on my YouTube right now, but is on all of the audio podcast platforms. And yeah, just scroll back. You'll see it's listed as Everyday Seeker. So it's all very exciting. The next day we're into May, so I'm gonna stop here. But astrology can be so many details, and so I just want to sit for a minute and see if anything comes through that's like big picture. I want to make sure I don't forget to say something that later I'll realize is important. In a nutshell, there is a lot of sweetness in the Pisces house in your chart. Please, if you don't know what that is, please find out. You can look at it in relation to your rising sign, which is I would say the most important way, but also if you don't know that, you can look at it in relation to your sun sign. Look up any horoscope and they'll tell you. So there's so much maximum sweetness, just transcendence even available to you in your Pisces house, and a very, very powerful new cycle beginning in your Taurus part of your chart. And the Taurus part of your chart is getting a mix. It's getting a lot of support from the sweetness, and it's beautiful and it's lovely, but it may feel a little bit like wobbly Bambi legs. Thank you, Fran, for that one. Or maybe not. Maybe it's just going to feel like, boom, coming in really strong, but shaky, like volatile, actually. Yeah, it's a stronger energy than wobbly Bambi legs. Uranus is there and it's a lightning bolt. And in Taurus also, there's like earthquake, because it's an earth sign. It's like the seismic shifting of tectonic plates, but it's this powerful shift that's happening at the root. So it's not like you're just shifting at the top, like you're going all the way to the root and like crack, like a total realignment there. So it's very, very potent, and the Pisces planets are supporting it. So that's like the dream, the romance, all of that. The hope for the new life. Lean on that and get ready for big change. And again, it's a series of eclipses. So like whatever, this is like the first one in Taurus that we're having like this, where it's like fully. So it's a big start of something new in that area. Okay. Well, this was longer than I thought, so good for me for doing it. And if you want to look at your own chart and look at what's available, how you can use this energy personally, what do you want to do with it? You feel free to book a reading with me, and follow me on Instagram. If you're not following me on Instagram, sacred_starlight. I think that's it. Love and blessings. I hope every good thing comes to you in your Pisces house, and every good thing comes to you in your Taurus house. And think about how you want to use this energy. It's up to you.